Good morning. All of us have expectations of the President of United States about what he should do and say, especially in certain situations. You have expectations of what a priest should do and speak, and we have expectations of everybody. At the time of Jesus, the Jews also had expectations of what the Messiah should be like and what he should do and speak. They expected the Messiah would solve their political problems, but Jesus' idea of what the Messiah should be was completely different to the expectations of his contemporaries. The main theme in today's readings is that God is the source of all authority. God shares his authority with civil rulers and with the Pope and other church leaders for the material and spiritual welfare of his children. The first reading from Isaiah tells us how God hates unfaithful and selfish officials. He removed the proud master of the royal palace from his office and gave authority to the humble and faithful Eliakim. It is interesting to note the parallel between today's gospel and the first reading. In our first reading, Eliakim is entrusted with the key of the house of David. In the Gospel, Jesus says to Peter, "I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven." With Eliakim, when he opens, no one shall shut. When he shuts, no one shall open. In the Gospel, whatever Peter bound on earth shall be bound in heaven. Whatever he looses on earth shall be loosed in heaven. Eliakim would be the vicar of Hezekiah, who was the king of Israel. Peter would be the vicar of Jesus, the king of the new Israel. In our second reading, St. Paul praises God for the depth of his wisdom, knowledge, and correct judgment, asserting that he is the source of all authority on earth and in heaven. There is a practice in today's culture and society that can help us to understand today's gospel, the opinion polls. One day, Jesus also wanted to know what about the people says about him. So he made an opinion poll. He did it not for political reasons, but for educational ones. Jesus asked the apostles, "Who do people say that the Son of Man is?" They answered, "Some say John the Baptist, others Elijah, and others Jeremiah or one of the prophets." But Jesus was not interested in measuring his popularity. His purpose entirely different. So he asked a second question, "Who do you say that I am?" This second question catches them completely off guard. There is a silence and they stand looking each other. Finally, Simon Peter responded, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." To answer the first question, it was only necessary to look around, to listen to people's opinions. But to answer the second question, it was necessary to look inside, to listen to a voice that was not of flesh and blood, but of the Father in heaven. Jesus does not seem to value very much what the people think of him. He wants to know what his disciples think of him. He asks them to speak for themselves, to speak of their own opinions, believing the divinity of Christ is not enough. But you must also bear witness to it. Peter witnessed it. And this point is Peter's act of faith. You are the Christ, the Son of the living God. Jesus uses another image which implies stability rather than movement. It is that of a rock. You are Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church. Jesus changed his name, as often happens in the Bible when someone receives an important mission. In the scriptures, when a person's name is changed, it signifies a new vocation. Abram becomes Abraham. Sarai becomes Sarah. Jacob becomes Israel. Hosea becomes Joshua. And Simon becomes Peter the rock. So Jesus said, upon this rock I will build my church. The true rock, the cornerstone, is Jesus himself. But once he has risen and ascended into heaven, this cornerstone, though present and active, is invisible. It is necessary for a sign to represent him, a sign that make Christ, who is the unshakable foundation, visible and efficacious in history. And this sign is Peter, and after him, his vicar, the Pope. Jesus is the foundation stone on which the church is founded, but the Pope is the visible human head of the church on earth. The church is not a mere building, it is the people of God. The church is made of living stones, and all of us need to contribute our might in keeping alive this church of God. Do I give my share of talents and gifts to the church to keep it effective and relevant? Do I make sacrifices and offer prayers for the church so that she may stand strong during struggles? Do I promote and encourage the teachings of the church and find beauty and wisdom in them? It is also noteworthy to see that in the Old Testament, God is often referred to as the rock. Now, Peter is called by this name, rock, to suggest that the church would be the channel of the foundations of God, the rock. The rock was the source of water in the wilderness. The church is the channel of living waters of grace provided in the sacraments. The rock protected Moses and covered him, and thus became a source of refuge. The church is the refuge for the sinners and the home for those who are lost. The rock speaks of the nature of God, solid, strengthening, and immutable. The church remains solid in her traditions, strong in her beliefs, and even in the changing situations of the world, and infallible in her magisterial teachings. Today, let us firmly profess our faith in the Lord, answering from the depth of our hearts to that very personal question of the Lord, "Who do you say that I am?" and take firm refuge in the church. Amen.